Hi, I'm Congressman Pat Fallon, and we're here in a virtual hearing in the Environmental Subcommittee for Oversight. And they're trying to get rid of fossil fuels and promote the new Green Deal. They got Greta Thunberg, I don't even know, she's 12 years old or something like that. She's now an expert on all things energy, so we've muted her, and we want to talk to you. So I want to talk to you today about really horrible bill that we're considering. We're going to be voting here shortly. House Resolution 51, and that's to make Washington, D.C. the 51st state in the country. Now, why is that a bad idea? Several reasons. One, it's unconstitutional. Two, it's impractical. And three, it flies in the face of the founders' intent. And James Madison said it himself in the Federalist Papers, number 43, that he didn't want to see the capital city in any particular state because that state would have an inordinate amount of influence on the federal government. So for 150 years, so we were debating it today in the chamber this morning, and the Democrats, several of them, made it a racial argument, and they do that with everything now. They said, "Oh, it's racist if we don't make DC a state because it's a black majority city, and they don't want a black majority state." What a bunch of hogwash and bunk. Unfortunately, our colleagues across the aisle are trying to make this about race. I thought that was inevitable, and it's sad and unfortunate. But let's look at data. In 1800, this city was a white majority, 10,600 and 4,000 African-American residents. Then 150 years later, in 1950, 517,000 white residents to 280,000 African-American residents. So for almost 160 years, with a white majority in DC, there was no serious effort to make it a state. And then really over the last 60 years, with a black majority, there was no serious effort until there was a 50-50 Senate. And a fellow named Joe Manchin from West Virginia, Democrat, refuses to get rid of the filibuster, which means you need 60 votes in the Senate to consider any legislation. They want to get rid of that so they can pass all of the crap that we're passing out of the House chamber. And then it'll pass the Senate chamber, and old man Joe Biden up there in DC, he's going to sign anything that they give him in the White House. So we've got to prevent that from happening. And because the filibuster is consistent and it is a cooling off mechanism, and it has been, again, for 250 years almost. DC statehood is ridiculous for so many reasons, and we went over some of them already, but the real reason behind all this is to get that extra House member and the extra 2 senators, because they know for sure that they're going to vote Democratic, for sure. In the last 3 presidential election cycles, the Republican got in single digits and the Democrat got over 90% of the vote. But, you know, there's a word in DC, and it seems to be a naughty word nowadays, and it's something you can't, it's like a cuss word. It's called compromise. We can solve this issue because the one half argument that Democrats have that has some credence is no taxation without representation. Now, it doesn't have full credence that they think it does because DC does have its own government. And they've chosen to live here in DC. They can move to Maryland, Virginia, or any of the other 48 states, but they choose to live in the district. No residents, white or black, have ever had a vote for the U.S. Senate. So there's a way to address it, though, and it's called retrocession. And retrocession means taking what's left of Washington, D.C., other than a real thin strip where the federal buildings are, and ceding it back to the state of Maryland. We did this in Virginia, to the southern part of Washington, D.C. in 1846. We retroceded it back to Virginia then. We should do that now in Maryland, because then everybody that lives in D.C. will have a member of Congress, because they'll have 700,000 more people in Maryland. Maryland will get an extra seat. That person will definitely be a Democrat. And most Republicans, I think, would support that simply because it's the right thing to do and it solves this issue once and for all. Now, what they don't get is their 2 U.S. senators, and that's why they are violently opposed to the idea of retrocession, because it's not about truly taxation without representation. It's not about that. It's about them getting 2 more senators in the Senate to then take Joe Manchin out of play so they can get rid of the filibuster and they can pass radical agenda items like what we're talking about here today in our hearing on environment, which is the new Green Deal, and a myriad of other things that we've seen that literally will make you sick to your stomach. It'll fundamentally transform the greatest country history has ever known, and we have to fight tooth and nail to make sure this doesn't happen. Thank you so much for joining us, and if you have any questions, please contact our office. And now it's time to go vote. Thanks so much. God bless.